5, how to do a chrome type effect. You will not be required to do this for your final product, as you can read right here. Final product does not require the use of this effect. Of course, you'll need to be able to do this checkpoint to know how to do it. And on the final product, I'll include a video on how you could use this with your final product in some way. Okay, so let's jump into Photoshop. Command N for new inches. We're going to do this as a square, so 12 by 12, 300 resolution, RGB. Create. Unlock the layer. I'm going to go ahead and create a solid fill adjustment color background as black. That's what I like to work on. Get my type tool, T on my keyboard. And let's get the size right first. I'm going to type out the word Nike here. Get it to the size I like. So there we go. It's pretty good. And then let's rasterize this layer. So right click on the layer, rasterize type. And most of this is going to be, well, half of it I should say, will be layer styles for this layer. So to get there, you double click. Don't double click here. Oh no, you can't double click anywhere. Double click anywhere on this layer and it's going to bring up your layer styles. Now what we will be adding first is a bevel and emboss. Then we're going to do an inner shadow. And then we're going to do a gradient overlay. If you don't see one of those, or maybe you just have a few styles here, all of them right here in this FX, click there and they'll be right here. So if you don't see bevel and emboss or inner shadow, it'll be here and you'll just click here and it'll pop up here in this column. So bevel and emboss first, and you can see the changes taking place. Now we're going to do kind of the general effects here, but whenever we finish for the most part the work, we're going to jump back in here and make some adjustments until we get the look that we might like a little bit more. So bevel and emboss, a lot of these will be default settings. We're going to do the inner bevel technique as smooth. Depth, we're going to go ahead and move that up to as high as it'll go, 1000%. Direction down. Size, mess around with this a little bit. You don't want it too much. Around at 87 will be good, and we can always adjust this later. I'm not going to mess with soften. This obviously just softens the effect of the edges. I kind of want mine to be hard edges, so I'm going to leave mine as 0. And then down here in the next box, the shading of the bevel and the emboss, how we want this to look. We're going to keep the angle at 90%. We'll use global lighting. Global lighting is just, if you have this box checked, anywhere within these effects where it might have a lighting feature, it's just going to, as long as if I would click that global lighting for, say, if I was doing an inner glow, it has a global lighting feature. If I would click that, it just applies automatically whatever I have set here. So all of these lighting effects will take on the same lighting effect. Unless I don't want that, then I would just leave that unchecked for that effect. Okay, altitude, keep that at 30%. Gloss contour. Yours might not pop up. I have mine set as this double ring feature here, or ring double. Yours probably might be cone or something else. Click here and choose the double ring. Looks like these two mountains if you're looking at the black. Highlight mode, normal, white, 100% opacity. So that'll be default. And for the shadow mode, it'll be default as well, except for the opacity. So the blend mode, keep that at normal. The color, keep that at black. And then if your opacity is at 100%, take that down to like 50% or something around there. And then that's it for bevel and emboss. Next, we're going to do an inner shadow. Blend mode, we'll keep that at multiply, at dark, full opacity, the angle, default 90%. The distance, choke, and size, this is going to Depend on how large your type is. And you'll probably will come back into this kind of at the end and readjust these settings anyways. Um, so distance is how far the distance of that inner shadow is being applied. The choke, and I'm going to keep my size down. Quality, we won't mess with that, keep that as it is. And then we're going to add a gradient overlay. Blend mode normal, no dither, opacity to 100%. And you want this to be black, well, white to black actually. So just go ahead and select your default black to white if you want, and then you can click on reverse. And what this is doing is it's creating like a band of light in the middle here, which we can control here with the scale. So you want the scale to be pretty high. I'm going to keep mine at around 137. You want it to align with the layer, the style. We want the style to be reflected, and the angle to be at 130 degrees. You can see as you change this around, it's just kind of changing the angle. So we're going to type in 130 so we kind of get this diagonal angle of light going there in the middle. Method you can keep as classic. And that's it for the layer styles. Bevel and emboss, inner shadow, and a gradient overlay. We'll hit OK. And we're going to go ahead and throw this into a group folder. You can name it Nike, because we're going to clip some new effects into this. The first one is going to be an S curves layer, so just a regular curves adjustment layer. But we're going to make an S curve, so we're going to push the blacks and we're going to push the whites. So we'll click here. Just click here on this line to add a point down here where the blacks are. So it goes from black over here in this area, and then the whites are over here to the right up here. So we'll click once here, and then over here we'll click another point. We'll take this first point, just click and drag it all the way up. And then you're going to click your white point and drag it all the way down. And you can see the effects that it's kind of creating. And we'll be able to adjust this more later as well. But this is your S curve. Blacks at the top, whites at the bottom. All right. And we're getting near to being finished. We're going to go ahead now and add our colors with a gradient map. Adjustment layers, gradient map. Click in here. And we'll go ahead, before you do that, go ahead and clip this and clip your curves adjustment as well into this folder group. We don't want it affecting our black background, basically. Okay, so come back up to our gradients here. And you're going to want, you could start with black and black, and then in the middle where our band of light is, we want that white. And on the sides and then everywhere else, you can kind of start creating your colors. And you can add some more. You can click on this white paint bucket, throw it over here, see what that looks like. Basic idea though is black on the sides, white in the middle, and then adding some extra colors. I think I might just go with this, and I'll add my white here in the middle. And I'll definitely add some more of that. Maybe instead of blue, I think I'll do that purple. And if you just want to add, say for instance this pink, if I just quickly want to have that over here, whatever, just click on that paint bucket, and that's kind of loaded within my cursor, so to speak, so that whenever I click back on my gradient map, it'll just drop that paint bucket there. So if I wanted more orange, click on my orange, and I could click there and it's going to add more orange. So I'm just kind of playing around here till I get the effect that I kind of like. Let's increase the whites there. To go increase those. Okay, I think this is kind of looking good for what I want. There we go. Okay. Let's just see. All right, so I'll hit OK there. Maybe I'll change my background color. Not full black. The next part is to add, I'm going to zoom in here, and we're going to go ahead and add some noise to this Nike type here. So that means if we're going to add noise, that's a filter. We want to first make sure that we change this and convert it into a smart object, and then add our filter. And noise, add noise. Don't want to add too much, so I think maybe one. Well, you know what? I think I will. Let's go with 2. But I'm going to change this gradient here, because this gradient is the color that's affecting this right here. So I think I'll bring that to full black. We'll zoom out and see how I like that. Maybe this needs to be full black. Alright. Alright, let's adjust my noise. So if I want to adjust my noise a little bit, just double click on that noise filter. Let's go to 1. And, well, you know what? That's a good thing about this being an adjustment layer. I'm not going to worry about the noise there. I think I'll do it right about there. And let's try just maybe painting it out in some areas and seeing what that looks like. I think I'm liking this. Just too much here in the E's. I kind of liked where it was everywhere else, but where it's black, it's just a little bit much. So lower my flow a little bit more. And just click here. Leave about that much. Okay, so that way I have it inside here where I like, but in these other places where it's just too much, I can just paint that effect out. Okay, so you get the idea. I like the way that looks. So I was there in my layer mask painting it out. All right, so next we want to add, you know, this is supposed to be like light shining a chrome metallic surface, so we should have some, you know, reflective sparkle light, so to speak. So in order to create that, we're going to use our shape tool, but it has to be the polygon tool. So because we can determine the number of sides that we want, and we want to create kind of a star. So click on our polygon tool. The number of sides we want is 4. And then click here in our gearbox. We want a very low star ratio. Yours is probably set at 100%. Bring it down to 3%. And I don't think we want smooth star indents. Let's see. So I'll draw out my star here. Hold shift. Let's see what that looks like. We want the fill to be white, no stroke. You can do that here. Let's see if that was what I wanted. Yeah, that is. So if it won't come to these points like this. If you have smooth star indents, it's not going to come to those points, which is what we want. And you also want 0 here on the curve. That's actually the so here, let me show you what I mean. So if we have 5 there and I draw it out, so you let's make sure it's white so you can actually see it. There we go. So you can see the difference here. This star with no smooth, it comes to a point, but here there's a 5 pixel smooth occurring on the edges here, which is what we don't want. So let's delete this second one. Let's go with this first one here. Place it where you like it. Well, actually, before we do that, Command J to duplicate it, and then Command T for retransform, and hold your shift button as you do this to get it right there, and then make it smaller, and hold your Alt or Option key. Bring it in about that much. And then what we're going to do is hold your shift key, select both of those, and we're going to rasterize the layers first, and then right click them again and go to merge layers. And then right click, convert to smart object, go to filter, Gaussian blur. We're going to add a very slight blur, 1.1. And now we're basically going to be dragging and placing these in their positions. So I'll put one there, Command J, duplicate it, and every time I duplicate it, you can see it'll get a little bit bright. So maybe some of these areas I want brighter than others, and I do want this one to be brighter, and actually I want it to be maybe my largest area of reflection, so I'll make it a little bit bigger. Command J, duplicate it there. Command J, I'll bring one down here, but Command T, I want it to be a little bit smaller, and I'm holding my Alt or Option key, and I'll make it brighter. Command J again, so it's about 3 times brighter. Now Command J, and this time I'll drag this one to a new spot, maybe right there. Command J, make it a little bit brighter. Command J, a new shiny spot there. Command J, I'll bring another spot right there, and I'll make it bright too, and maybe one last one right here, and I'll make it a little bit smaller, but make it bright. Command J. So there we go. We have some sparkles going on, some shines. So hold your shift key, keep the top one selected, go all the way down to that first one you created, select it, and throw those into a group and name those star shines or whatever. And here is the basic of the Chrome type. Now you can go back in and make some maybe adjustments to this if you like. So go back to your type where you did those Chrome effects. Remember, we made this a smart object, so all of those Chrome effects are still there to be edited, but I need to double click on my smart object, and when I do, it opens up into a new layer. So if it just changes like this, because it happens really quickly, just know that this is the smart object layer, so to speak. So in here, right, my original document's still over here to the left, and I can make my changes here slightly. So I'll double click here, double click on that layer. Maybe in the bevel and emboss, I can change the size of it. Go to my inner shadow, distance, change some of those effects, change the choke. Choke doesn't really seem to do much. Don't want to do the gradient overlay, so basically maybe the size and the distance for the inner shadow. So I changed the size a little bit. I'll hit OK. Now in order to apply these effects that I just changed back into my original document, I just need to hit Command S and save these changes here in this document. And those I can now click out of this, and those changes have been saved and updated here. And I can always go back in, readjust them some more, Command S, and change it, and it'll save back in here again. So that is it.